Sarah, you mentioned it before briefly, but about Daniel Levy. There is a report from The Sun claiming an agreement is reportedly close on the acquisition of former Spurs executive chairman Daniel Levy's near 30% shareholdings in ENIC, a consortium led by US investor Brooklyn Earreich and Hong Kong financier Wing Fai could conclude the acquisition as early this month. There's reports are about 1.3 billion, I believe, price tag on his shares. Do you believe there's legs to this, and how does this actually affect Tottenham from a fan point of view, watching the team, wanting better for the football club? How does this affect us, do you think?
Yeah. So it's rather timely that this has come out now,
Yeah.
no? It's what a coincidence that 2 days before the transfer window closes and we haven't signed anyone, all of a sudden we catch wind that Levy's thinking of selling his shares. No, it's a bit of a funny
Crazy.
coincidence there. So I think this is showing again the masterclass of ENIC in smoke and mirrors and trying to misdirect people, thinking that it's the problem lies elsewhere. Look, we all know the problem this transfer window was the fact that we didn't bring anyone in. So look, it might be partly deflection. I don't think look, I'm no expert, but considering how takeovers generally go, I wouldn't imagine that it's as close as what they're reporting. From my perspective, how I read it is this is kind of like a PR plug to create some publicity around it, to try and get more bids in. We've heard speculation that the Lewis family were trying to buy out Levy's shares. So there's every possibility that they were auditing the books and they were making sure that everything was done in accordance with, financial regulations in the past. And so maybe there's a case to suggest that maybe the Lewis family were trying to bargain or, negotiate with Levy for his share. And maybe Levy said, no, I'm not having it. And I'm going out to market and I'm going to prove to you that my share's worth £1 billion and we're going to increase the valuation. And by doing that, he then has leverage with the Lewis family. Ultimately, there's complete disruption at the top level. We know that, and maybe the Lewis family are going to take over Levy's shares. I don't think that's going to go down well with fans, but they're already our majority shareholder. So nothing really changes. It just means that they get more leverage in future if they want to sell all of the shares in the club, right? Because then they have full ownership. But in terms of Levy himself, look, he in theory could probably sell to someone else. I don't know if that becomes a hostile takeover because there are UK tax codes, there does have to be shareholder agreement before he does go ahead and actually sell those shares. So these things can take a very long time, even though we're hearing today that, it's just come about. The likelihood is this time last year, he probably knew he was leaving. He did all those interviews and pressers with Gary Neville, etc. So these things are not just decisions that happen overnight. They're planned for a very, very long time. And so if the likelihood is that a deal is already close, then those conversations would have started last year. So maybe the Lewis family is going to take over. Maybe he's going to market and they're doing sort of a valuation. That's a possibility. I don't think it changes too much for us as fans at the moment because Levy's a non-entity. His era has gone. He's moved on from the club. He either doesn't like the direction of the club or he's not going to be involved in it. So as far as I'm concerned, if he doesn't want to be involved and, sell your shit, sell up, now's the time. And we move forward and we bring in, new ownership or the same ownership that can maybe invest more into the club. We're not going to know those promises until nearer the time. But look, we've been given so many empty promises, in the same way that we were just talking Romero has. Romero's been given the empty promises. So we're used to this. We've heard it all before. We've seen the club go up for valuations and, earlier this year, was it about 4.5 billion that it was up for valuation? So we've heard speculation in the past. This is not new information, but it just depends on how long this is actually going to take, because this could go on for a season or two. I don't think this happens in the next month or two. I think it's something that's long term.
Fair enough. Estelle, do you have anything to add on that in terms of that news story about Daniel Levy? Do you think it's is there something to learn from it, gather from it?
I think they're trying to manage him out of the club. I think they want him out of the business. They weren't complaining about Levy when he was building a new stadium. They weren't complaining about Daniel Levy when he was achieving record profits, record revenue. They weren't complaining about Daniel Levy when we were getting all these concerts and boxing fights at the stadium. But as soon as there's 2,000 people on the high street chanting Levy out, ENIC out, they've got a problem. So I know, let's manage Levy out. Rightly so, he had to go. But let's not sugarcoat this. ENIC are a bigger problem. Levy owns 30% of ENIC. The other 70% is still here. And Levy's not dumb. He's going to broker the best deal he can. He's going to have a say in it. And I agree with Sarah. This isn't going to happen in the next week or two. It's going to take quite some time. And when it gets done, ENIC are then going to have to deal with the new 30% owners. Let's see how that works out for them. I just feel that, look, for me, Levy, I wanted him out. I never believed he was going to do the right. He was prepared to take the kind of risk required at this level of football, the way the environment's changed. But to bring in Vinay and Lange as the future is nothing short of pain.
They're just CEOs. You can sack the CEO whenever they're not like forward.
Do you know what? You know they managed it out, because if they were serious about the club, they would have kept Levy for 1 year alongside the new CEO for a transitional period, so Levy could show the new CEO, this is how it's done, this is what I've been doing, this is how this department works, this is how you got to deal with this particular agent and this particular club when it comes to transfers, and when you get this issue with the player, this is kind of how you got to go about it. At least show the next guy what you know, then you step down and the new guy comes in without a blindfold on. But they never did that. They got Levy out of nowhere. Levy's gone.
No, but didn't Vinay came in like last March, didn't he?
Yeah,
Didn't he
March or April.
That was all in the plan. That was all in the plan.
Charrington as well came in end of last season.
Yeah, from like last January, that was all in the plan. So maybe not a year, but they definitely had 6 months worth of discussions, I'm sure.
I don't believe for 1 second Vinay came in to be the CEO and Levy knew that. I don't believe for 1 second Dan Levy knew.
Why would Levy do why would he do all the presses and the PR then? Why would he do that? Yeah, why would if he wanted to ensure his legacy? That's how I read those releases.
I think that they knew that there had to be some changes at boardroom level, because Donna Cullen left as well, and that was Levy's right hand person. So as soon as Donna left, Levy knew that he was in trouble. But I don't think Levy knew that he was going to be managed out or he was going to be stepping down back in March. I don't think that was the case. I think it happened quite quickly over the summer. I think ENIC knew, the Lewis family knew. I don't think Levy was fully aware. He probably had some. But I don't think there was a proper transition period, and I know there isn't a proper transition period, because look at the state of us. Look at the decisions we're making. Some of the things that.
But that's what transition periods are, isn't it?
Yeah. Just quickly on that, Sarah. Like, as Stel's saying, right now there's obviously in September time when Levy left, there's a big, rebrand of ENIC 2.0. The Lewis family are coming and taking over, and Levy's been ousted. Now, since then, it looks like from the outside looking in, it's been a complete mess. Fabio's come in as co-sport director, and he's left. We've just had a horrific transfer window, but it is. A quote unquote transition period. There was planned protests from an anti game, which didn't really catch much traction. But there was definitely a sentiment again. The eye is back on ENIC. But for you, from the outside looking in, is when you're looking at what's happened since Levy's left, is this for you just pure signs of them getting to grips with the job they have, and it's just a transition, or do they seem like they're about out of their depth in trying to run this football club right now?
I think it's a bit of both. I think when you go through transformation on such a big scale, and you've got so many moving pieces and so many parties involved, these things are very complicated. So on the one hand, I empathize with that. On the other, that you have to be employing people at the level who know what they're doing. And there certainly is a level of incompetence that's being displayed here. We can see that from Lange, potentially Vinay, so and there's various other people on the board, and it's no secret that we don't have a board who are footballing heads, right? They're all business people. And so when you've got this conflict of interest, essentially. You've got the conflict of interest of, the monetary side, but also performing as best as you can in the world of football. So their interests are divided from what I can see. So even though you've maybe replaced people at the top, they're aligned in maybe the direction, but maybe they're not aligned in the success of what football would look like. And part of that problem is they are not executing the plan that they've set out. There's rumours that they don't have a plan. In my opinion, I just don't think they have the balls to execute the plan. I just think that they don't have the confidence, they don't have the know-how, they lack the conviction just to follow through with the plan and see if it fails. And the problem is, if you do nothing, as Frank said, you're also taking a risk. You can't stand still and not sign players or not do anything in a game that moves so quickly. So I think part of the problem is the incompetence. I do think there is a level of alignment. Look, they're all in it for the money. They all want to see success, and the way that you do that is perform really well and get fans on side and all of that kind of stuff. However, there are gaps in the knowledge at the top, and I think that we will still see some movement at board level. I don't think that's over yet. I think there's still going to be some
That's why
turning.
you've got to keep Levy for a year, though. That's my point. If you keep Levy for
maybe.
the whole year, that knowledge gap, he feeds it. He feeds.
But I guess if you have a conflict of interest, then maybe there was some kind of agreement, or maybe they just got rid of him so that they could be more aligned. I don't know, but yeah.
For you, Sarah, as well, the decision in hindsight once Fabio was announced that he's leaving to go to Fiorentina, to keep him on till the end of the transfer window. I mean, hasn't that looked like a ludicrous decision in hindsight? Because Fiorentina have gone on to make 5 signings this window. One of them from Tottenham, one of them from Juventus, which has had Fabio Paratici written all over it. And Tottenham have done not made a single signing pretty much since he made that announcement. And how does that decision look in hindsight?
Paratici's not a foolish guy, is he? He knows what he's doing. He knows how to cook the system, Paratici.
Yeah.
If there's a guy who knows how to cook the system, look, if you were going to get sacked from your job and you knew it was coming, right? You'd also put in your leave like a couple of weeks' notice before you knew that they needed you, right? That's exactly his way of giving Spurs the finger, right? That is him saying, you didn't treat me well, you didn't trust me, you've got this whole new system with profiling and scouting, and I'm not on board with it. It's not the way that I work. Look, in the past, we've seen him at games during the transfer window with his phone to his ear, multiple phones going at the same time. He's been completely off radar. So he knew, and the club knew, like they must have had an instinct, and that in itself is lack of planning. Yeah, they got in Rafi, but unfortunately the timing of it was not good. And maybe Paratici was also throwing the club under the bus. He's also making a statement. He could have easily waited until after the transfer window. Look, I'm pretty sure he gets fees as well every time he signs a player. I don't know how exactly it works, but I would imagine, that he also gets money from it. So it seems very strange. Like, I think he probably threw them under the bus just as much as they didn't want him there. And look, I don't think him and Lange are such different characters. Lange is... Neither of them have the most charisma, right? But I don't know if working collaboratively, if that would have worked out long term anyway. So I think, there's... He was Levy's right-hand man. He was Levy's right-hand man. So without his boss at the helm and trying to deal with all these corporate heads, he was probably like, I just don't want to work in this environment. It just doesn't suit him. It doesn't mean he's bad, but it just doesn't suit him.
Reportedly, he wanted Frank out a while ago as well.
He wasn't even on board with Frank in the first place. So,
Well, what do you think about that, Stel, in terms of, in hindsight, the decision to allow Fabio to complete the transfer window when he's already announced he's leaving? Like, do you think did he even do anything for Tottenham? Like, in that month, do you think he was actually trying to get transfers done? Because Fiorentina seemed very busy.
They haven't got a clue what they're doing. They haven't got a clue what they're doing. whether it's recruiting managers, backing managers, not backing managers, signing players, finding players, who's in charge of recruitment, who's in charge of scouting. Back in August, we had this huge, spicy debate where I said, guys, nothing has changed. The patterns are the same. Until I see a change of pattern, nothing has changed. And you're all building yourselves up for a big fall. It's going to happen again. And I think it's happening again. The fact they haven't spent money in this window, for me, is down to the fact that they're not sure if Frank's their guy. And they don't want to go and drop £100 million on a manager that might not be here in the summer. I don't think that decision's cemented. Frank can come out and say, yeah, I've had really good, healthy conversations with the board. And yeah, I really feel like the family is going to back me. He can say that as much as he likes. Come the summer, if we're 15th, no Europe, no Champions League trophy, they're going to be absolutely mad to keep him. Why would you keep a manager that's done that? You didn't keep Ange and he won a trophy. And he got you into the Champions League, which generates you a lot of money. So, keeping Paratici. The one thing about Paratici is he's far more experienced than Lange when it comes to dealing with clubs and identifying players. I don't think Paratici is particularly amazing, by the way, but the stupid thing is, if they've picked Lange over Paratici, then they've just binned away 3 years of work that Paratici's done to restructure the academy.
But I think Fabio decided he's leaving, I think, didn't he?
Why would Fabio want to leave?
Because Levy's not there anymore. Just the structure's the same way of operating. I don't think the vision aligned with what he wanted. If you don't like the manager, if you've got all these, look, he's not a guy who's going to want targets. You know what I mean? I can't see Paratici sitting there going, here's your parameters, here's your tick box exercise. Paratici's the kind of, you know what I mean? He's not, it just doesn't fit.
I think he left because under Levy, he was going to be the main man between
he was the main man, for sure.
Right. But now Levy's gone, the role is shared between Lange and Paratici, and he can't work that way. So he in his eyes, I don't want to do a job where I'm being told how to do my job by someone that's not as good as me. So he's made a decision to leave on that basis. Fine. But Paratici restructured the academy. He's the one that scouted Simon Davies from going with Vincent Kompany to the time Vincent Kompany was going to, I believe, Man City. No, they worked together at Man City and they went to Belgium. That's right. Yeah. Vincent Kompany was going to Burnley and Simon Davies was going to be his number 2. Paratici got on the phone and said, I want you to be my academy director. He's then come to Spurs. They've restructured the academy, broken the wage bill, attracted some better younger players that we've signed, for example, such as Vuskovic. Hopefully they come through in the future. And the academy, they can change the complete structure. From being a team, an academy that developed individuals that could be versatile in multiple positions and can take on players, it was more team-based. So let's try and align every single team to play the same philosophy so they can feed into a team that plays the first, the philosophy same as the academy. It's a kind of Ajax model. What's the point of doing all of that if you're then going to sack the guy that's done it and then bring in a manager who doesn't align with the work that the academy's done for the last 3 years? And then we wonder why academy kids aren't coming in. It's because you've got rid of Paratici, who would have only appointed managers that aligned with the academy work he's done with Simon Davies. When I went to the academy, I sat there I sat in front of Simon Davies and I said, what happens if Ange leaves? All this work you're doing in the academy, what happens if Ange leaves? Because Ange plays on the front foot. He plays a possession-based type of football. What happens then? He said to me, I've been told from above, the next manager will be of that ilk. He'll be a De Zerbi type, someone that plays that type of football so that the academy is not compromised. That's one of the reasons I took the job. This is what the academy director said to me. So by sacking Paratici, you've now compromised the academy. This is why I say to you guys, they don't know what they're doing.
Well,
they haven't got a clue.
There's just been a report just now from Matt Law saying Tottenham have begun their search for Paratici's replacement as they plan to stick with the model of two sporting directors. The model of two sporting directors.
I saw that in the chat, but isn't that what Rafi's here for?
He's not a sporting director. I don't think he's a sporting director. He's more of a guy who handles.
A salesman.
Yeah, he handles negotiations.
So I guess they're completely restructuring then, from the sounds of it. What, they're going to have Lange as well? Or are they sacking Lange as well? This is why it doesn't make sense.
They're keeping Lange, and they plan to keep the model of 2 sporting directors. So Paratici, someone will go alongside Lange now.
You can't do that. You can't do that. It doesn't
And
work.
then Rafi would feed into.
Rafi works under Lange, from what I understand.
Yeah,
In some capacity. So that's just been a report right now from Matt Law. So I don't know who they're going to go with, but he's failed.
Do you know what that says? That says we don't trust Lange to do the job, so we're going to bring him some help because we're too scared to sack Lange. That's what that says to me. One football director builds the process, the network of scouts, the recruitment team, the liaison between manager and CEO, liaison with the players and manager and recruitment. One guy builds that and links it all together. That's what Ralph Ragnick did with the Leipzig group, and he was fantastic at it. If you're going to bring in 2, that's like saying, right, we're going to hire a second manager to work with Frank. So Frank, you manage the defence, and the other manager, you manage the attack, and then someone will liaise between you two to figure out what we do in the middle. It's bonkers. Lange or the new guy will be gone within 2 years. Mark my words, because there's going to be conflict. It won't work.
Yeah. It does seem weird. Why would you? Yeah, this is the whole thing. The question that you asked before, Sim, was Paratici pushed out or did he leave? It sounds like more and more that he left, because it wouldn't make sense that you don't have someone waiting in the wings to bring in. Look, if you run a business, you're going to have someone waiting in the wings ready to bring in. So maybe Rafi wasn't that guy, and then you've got an even more complicated structure, unless it's just PR that's just complete hot air to like distract people. But sometimes too many cooks, you know what I mean? Like sometimes if you've got like 4 people at the top negotiating, making decisions, and you know that sometimes that's not helpful as well, and you do all have to be aligned, and from the sounds of it, you know, that they're not aligned, and that in and of itself is part of the problem. You know, you need to have a unified approach when it comes to signing players, who the manager's going to be, and when you have all of that uncertainty without the confidence to execute whatever your plan is, you're never going to succeed. Like you can't succeed when you're divided. It's as simple as that. If we look at all the teams that have won the Premier League or won in Europe, more often than not, they've been teams that have had some kind of stability, and we are so unstable. So realistically, I can't expect us being in top 8. I just can't, because it's reflected on the pitch. Nothing works in isolation. You know, if you have disruption at the top, it is going to disrupt your manager. It is going to disrupt the coaching staff. It is going to disrupt the players. It's going to disrupt the fans. You know, you're going to get protests. So all of that negative energy is just, it's a vicious cycle, and it's a spiral of decline. And unfortunately, and it comes from the top, until they can align themselves properly and get the right people in the right positions and have that plan and be able to execute it, we are going to be in this constant spiral of decline. I don't think we get relegated, but it's not going to fix itself. You know, someone at some point has to step up to the plate, and at the moment Vinay's not that guy.
What happens if one academy director says, I want us to get Wharton from Palace, and another academy director says, sorry, not academy director, if one football director says I want Wharton and the other football director says no, I want Manukoni from Inter Milan, who makes the decision which one we sign then?
I'd assume Frank, no, or whoever the manager is, no?
Yeah,
the manager's going to shortlist. The manager's going to shortlist. They're going to profile players. They're going to go, or maybe it's a bit of both. You know, maybe they go back to them and say, look, we've profiled these players. How about these players instead? Scouting agents are going to go out. I guess there's a lot of parties involved, but I think the manager surely would have.
But from what I believe, when it was Fabio and Lange was not involved in first team acquisition at that point. It was all on Fabio. That was what they announced, that Fabio was in charge of first team players, recruitment, all that kind of stuff. Lange was kind of just on the kind of youth side. But obviously during this window, with Fabio announcing that he's leaving, what was it, beginning of the window or mid-window, I'm sure Lange had to probably pick up some of the slack, because Fabio was, by the looks of things, not doing much and maybe more interested in signing players for Fiorentina, not for us.
So, Sim, on that basis then, Frank wanted Sousa.
No, that was the youth signings. That was probably under Lange's remit.
But I thought Sousa's going to be playing for the first team, no?
By the sounds of things, the fact that Robertson was set to come in or wanted, it sounds like they don't believe he's ready right now for the first team. But he might have to play now because we have no one else. So maybe they'll try and see if he is ready. But I don't think the plan was for him to come in. I think maybe the plan is for him to either come in and be around the first team for 6 months, maybe get a couple of minutes here and there, maybe a loan deal. I don't think it's like under 21s or anything like that. But I do think it's going to be first team, hopefully in the near future. But I don't think his plan was to come in and be a direct competition immediately for a doggy. I don't think that was the plan, I would say.
So Frank would have wanted Robertson then. He would have
100%. 100%. He wanted the leadership ability and all this kind of the experience. 100%. In terms of,
I can see that
go on, Sarah. Yeah.
No, I can see that as well. Look, if you look at the bigger picture, we've lost not just Kane and Son, we've lost Dyer, we've lost Lloris. You've lost a lot of
Højbjerg,
you've lost a lot of players in the dressing room who have that experience. I'm not saying these players are like, the best players in the world, but that experience, you can't pay for that. That's something that's learnt over time. And so you do need to replace those figureheads in the dressing room. And look at the players we've brought in. Paulinho, how old's Paulinho? Late 20s. You've got Danso, who's late 20s. You've got Kolo Muani, who's 27. You've got Gallagher, who's also in his mid-20s. We haven't actually bought any young players so far other than Sousa. So, of course, last year we did that massive overhaul where we bought Bergvall and we bought Gray and we bought a lot of young players. So now the focus does seem to have shifted. What we don't have is players in their prime. Maybe Gallagher was kind of one of them. But, yeah, I think that also plays into it. So, yeah, I agree. I think, you need the experience. And I agree. I think Frank is the type of guy to recognise that is a gap in the squad just from his experience, I guess.
I think we lack quality. I just think we lack quality. I don't mind if we sign a 21-year-old if he's quality. Like, look at Xavi Simons. He's young, but look at him. He's a top player. He's a very good player. I don't care if we sign 19-year-olds or 31-year-olds, as long as they're quality players. They can, within a month or so, you can see that they can kick ball. If they can do that, then I think yes. Because that automatically improves us in that position. But unfortunately, we still sign one good player, one average, one bad. One good player, one average, one bad. We still seem to do. Muani has been shocking, absolutely shocking.
He seems like he doesn't want to be here, doesn't it?
But then Xavi Simons has been really, really good, especially recently. So
he seems like he's fighting, doesn't he, Xavi, to really show those battling qualities, to show he's not just a flair player, but he actually can stick a boot in. But look.
When we signed Paulinho and we signed Xavi Simons, I said Paulinho would be our best signing of the summer, and Xavi Simons is a really, really good player. Paulinho showed from day one he is that six for us. He's solid at it, and he's versatile because he can play in the centre back role. He did really well against Man City in the centre back role. Xavi Simons, it's taken him a bit of time, but you can clearly see when we're attacking, he comes to life. He's aggressive. He wins the ball. He's got a pass on him. He's got a shot on him. When we're more defensive and pragmatic, it's like he's not on the pitch. It just doesn't work for him. So Xavi Simons and Paulinho, for me, are the two best signings we made. Kudus is good, but he got sussed out. And then that's it. Double up on him. He's got nothing.
I think he needs support. He's asked to beat 3-4 players every time he gets the ball.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think that's a big problem.